Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Uplifters podcast. As you know, the Uplifters podcast is focused on uplifting individuals, professionals, and entrepreneurs by sharing the journey, the challenges, the obstacles that entrepreneurs are going through and how they're dealing with it and what the mindset that they use in order to overcome those obstacles and really ride into success and continue to raise the bar on a regular basis. So today we have a very special guest, Jaret, and Jaret Martino. He's a director of a company called Love's Wins Production, Distribution, and Film Festival. And Jaret is committed to create awareness for subjects deserving attention through Love Wins Productions, Distribution, and Film Festival. So Jaret, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Adam. I appreciate that.
Thank you. So Jaret, share with us a little bit about your journey and how you got to today, a producer and someone who's really doing some extraordinary things in the media and entertainment industry.
Thanks so much, Adam. Yeah, I started as an actor when I was about 6 years old. My mom was a single parent of three, and she didn't miss a beat somehow. I still can't wrap my head around how she juggled going to school and putting herself through college. She went to become a teacher and waitress and cleaned houses, and somehow she was there for every meal. Practically, and she would find free things for us to do, community theater, cheap matinee movies, and sneak candy in her purse, just making it and surviving. And we thought we were the richest kids on the block, so she did an impeccable job. And the older I got, and she really encouraged me to follow my own dreams. And, and I had such a representation of what strength and determination meant. So I pursued acting, and I worked with Ford models, and I explored the New York market, moved to Los Angeles. I was going to James Franco's Studio 4, and Kathleen Randazzo was my coach at that point. I was also simultaneously in Larry Moss's class and John Sorigliano. So I had a ton of mentors, like within the same year or two, that were really influential and impactful. As the market changed, they encouraged us to make our own work. And that was about 8 years ago, and I started my own production company. And just branded it, and creating awareness for subjects deserving attention, which is very much in line with how I grew up, how turning pain into positive and really finding the silver lining, and sometimes to get to the positive, as you know, we have to go through those struggles. We have to feel all the emotions, and acting for me was the escape for a while out of that, and the environment to create a different life outside, to feel all these scary emotions. So producing kind of helped me get a different perspective on that, and really changed my work as an actor as well. So here we are. We just flourished in terms of the projects, and even if it's a narrative story, a lot of times it's based on true events, or something that could happen. I really like to focus on things that are relatable that way. And I'm proud of the work, and I'm happy I'm happy that we're here today with the Donna release, talking to you as we release my mom's actual true story.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll share more information. I would want you to share more information about that in a moment. But I think that your journey and the raw experience that you had and all of those tough times and challenges and obstacles that you went through, whether it's through childhood or through your environment, kind of brought you into certain lessons and certain things that you're doing today. And really in between those two things, there's just time, right? It's, sometimes we don't get it right away, right? It takes a little bit of things. Take us through that process, and maybe some of the biggest lessons that you learned from your mom and from the other mentors that you've, throughout your journey.
God, so many. I mean, I was just talking about this as far as, the process of making a film, and then it so correlates to life in terms of just all the obstacles that can come up and the different personalities. And for example, for Donna, Stronger Than Pretty, I started the first draft as just kind of a journal entry, and I wrote it in a screenplay format because that's how I grew up. I grew up in the business. So, and for a story like this, it was just the easiest way to get it down and out. But that was 8 years ago. And, the process was really watching other people go on camera and share their story and their bravery, which definitely inspired me to go forward with this project and to put more energy into it. We hired a co-writer from the WGA. We had a staged reading. It was a short film that went all over the festival circuit worldwide. We partnered with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and spoke in front of over 1,000 advocates at their national conference. And then years later, after development and, a lot of time and obstacles and ups and downs, we made the feature. And, there was never, I just got asked the other day if there was felt like the right time. And I compared it to, expecting parents. I'm not a parent yet, but, I feel like that same feeling of like, you're never really ready, so just kind of jump in and
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We have a similar journey in terms of the writing. It also took me about 7 to 8 years from the moment that I decided to write my book to actually publishing it. And it came through an obstacle, as I don't know if you know my story, where I crushed my throat, my voice box, and couldn't speak for a year. I didn't have health insurance, and had multiple surgeries. For an entertainer like I was, like you, in New York, and it was devastating. So it's this is kind of what we're talking about, uplifting from those challenges and the biggest like devastation. Some extraordinary light comes in, and I think and I'll talk to you now about the film itself. A lot of light can come from this. So share with us what the film is about. What are some of the things that they can expect? Where they can find it.
Yeah, for sure. And just going off of what you just said, that really resonates in terms of going through the darkness. And I think that that's really timely too, because we're seeing that we need, as a society, as human beings, we need to talk about these darker subjects. We need to embrace the hurt, the pain, the things that have been here for thousands of years, and really get out of the ego. And we're all living in it in real time. So I think, we're taught to kind of, in societies and the way a lot of us grew up, and it's thousands of years in the psyche, that it's that we need to present. And the social media driven world where it's
look good all the time, this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, being this idea of perfect, and it doesn't exist. And that's really what helps me with the production company. At James Franco's Studio 4, it was ingrained in us that art is messy and so is life, so
Yeah.
um but yeah, getting to the film, well, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So what do you want people to get from the film? Tell us a little bit about the film itself,
Yeah.
and then where people can find it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much to get for there's so many different walks. Everyone walks a different path. So um, some people might really resonate with it, with the domestic violence aspect, or any form of abuse, emotional, verbal, physical, financial. And if they don't, although we always find that if it didn't happen directly to them, a lot of people, this film just causes them to want to share, because we cover conditioning, patterns, cycles, in family dynamics, really relatable things that are in every family. So it's kind of like a slice of life. It's a drama. It's a psych thriller in some ways. I hate to, that's not really my genre, but it does have elements of that because of the suspense factor and the level of verbal and emotional abuse that most abusers just innately have,
Yeah.
being narcissist a lot of the time. So it's a really layered piece, and we span 30 years in my mother's life. So again, it's my mother's true story, and we start in the late 60s and go through the early 2000s.
Hmm.
And it's the journey of a woman finding her voice. So although it's very much a women's empowerment message, we found that it speaks to men and women. Men, have found themselves in abusive situations as well, of course. And yeah, I hope that this film, the message helps continue to undo the damage done to women, how we treat our women, how we look at our women, how we talk about our women. Um, I think that's, I'm seeing it right now. It's just very early in the review stages, and every male critic has had the opportunity to comment on the journey of a woman finding her voice. And my question always is, when I work, because I'm very active with the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. We're a proud partner of them, and all the advocates worldwide. And I always say that this, it's great to have a rally and a support system of women, but we do need men to join, and we do need men to speak up. It's going to take men getting involved and helping change. So that's the other message is about the work we're set out to do for men as well. The only space that men really have to get together is AA, in terms of communicating and sharing.
Yeah.
And so, I've been talking to different organizations about how can this film help men expose, because a lot of times they don't want to abuse. It's something they watched happen. And then it's just, unfortunately, naturally, a lot of times we become our parents.
Yeah.
So it's a loaded, around this film, it's always loaded questions, because there's just so much that encompasses domestic violence and women's rights and empowerment.
Yeah. This topic is very near and dear to my heart, as people who know me closely knows that I went through this with my family and was raised by a single mom that was abused for many, many years, in every possible way. And, there's a lot to carry, and writing about it, even when I wrote about it in my book, right? It's a really, could be a very, very tough journey, and you really look for the light in every situation in the way that you can inspire and empower other people. And I think, you're sharing that voice and that, giving this light to other people could really save a lot of lives. And so, tell us a little bit about some of those difficulties in writing and in going through all of, the whole production process. It could be a lot of, ups and downs. And, you have a message that is very positive that you want to bring to the world, and dealing with the mundane things throughout, and people that have their own agendas throughout that journey could be, challenging. So how do you keep pushing through and making sure that, it doesn't get entangled with all of the competing narratives and agendas that other people have?
That's a great question. Also a loaded question, because it's so, there's been so many things that have happened along the way. But I want to start out by saying thank you for sharing how you resonate with the story, and thank you for being a part of the work, because there's not enough men out there, like we just talked about. So I'm happy to be in this space and having this conversation. Yeah, I mean, the personal aspect about this, there was definitely times that I wanted to give up, because when your life becomes a business, a book, a movie, anything that you're sharing with the world and on a larger platform, it automatically forces change and conversations that may have never happened. And that can be difficult. They're difficult conversations, because I think the biggest thing my family and I walked away with is that we're not victims, we're survivors, because there's always a piece, like anytime you've been victimized and put in that situation to be full of fear and isolated and not recognized by your peers, especially as children. I think that that's another aspect, that I want to talk about. This film was definitely made for the child in me that didn't have a representation, because all the representations fed into the stereotypes and the stigmas and, the drama of what abuse feels like. But this film only speaks to, as a tool, to the courage and determination, and the grit and the wit to get away, to escape, and to make a life for yourself and your children. Yeah. And along the way, I'm happy that you included that, because a lot of people resonate when you start talking candidly and from your heart, and they immediately, a lot of times, want to stamp their own pain onto it, and not just share their story, because that's the beautiful part, that exchange. But what happens on the business end is that people want to share, and the story become their story and intertwine. So in business, I had to be really careful about what their intentions were, and is it serving my mother's story? I didn't make this to appease Hollywood. I'm not that director. My company doesn't stand for most things that Hollywood is about. This isn't the commercialized version. So I walked away from deals that they wanted to hand my mother a gun in the script for her strength. Her strength never came from a gun. My mom wasn't a gun owner. So just, it forced me, all these years later, those were really, I came into a lot of different situations that felt, and being naive and being a young guy, trying to figure out how am I going to get this project made. I constantly had to get back to the root of why I started this project, and not sell out, really, is what it comes down to. I didn't want to make any other version except what was written and what was from my mom's journals. This story is pulled from my mom's actual journal entries. And there's no writer, producer, company that can ever take away from that or add to it. You know, this story is what it is, and it's one that far more can relate to than we admit as a society. So so yeah, I'm excited for this film to create these controversial conversations. And I think I kind of set myself up for a very 50-50 audience, because I'm already seeing that, you know, the haters are going to hate, and and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, we made it for them
Yeah.
to do their thing and to have their say too. But I think in the end, when it all boils down, this film will do a tremendous amount of good.
Yes. You know, you mentioned something really important, that, you know, it's not about victims, it's about surviving, right? It's, you know, it's not, it's moving from victim to survival. And that's, you know, especially for people like us who went through this, you know, in the moment, right? It's right. I mean, it's just going through a lot of suffering and a lot of abuse and a lot, you know, there, it doesn't seem that the experience is of strength, right? But there's a certain way of surviving it, and a certain way of behaving, and a certain way that making the child or the kids, you know, sheltered away from it, or, you know, or protecting them. And so, and it's a really interesting, you know, dichotomy there. And I think a lot of those tough, you know, to our audience who are going through really, really tough experiences, there's another side to it, and there's another strength to it. And, you know, is there anything that you could say to people that maybe are going through some of those things right now that could strengthen them and give them, you know, light?
Yeah, I mean, immediately, like as you were just talking about that question, the first thing that popped into my mind, um, and I went right back there, was my mom and I, hours before we spoke in front of the thousands of advocates at the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence conference. We were with Ruth Glenn, who is the CEO of the NCADV. And we had, my mom and I had an interview with her, and she was so incredible, like she's such a force and a strength, and she allowed us a moment, and I think we spoke probably at length for 20 minutes about our story, our personal story, and just to be seen and heard by, you know, the CEO at that point, that was already a life-changing moment.
Yeah.
And we got through our story of survival, you know, telling all the moments of what it felt like to be a victim. And she turned around and said her story, her personal story, which was she was shot 3 times and left for dead by her husband and now ex-husband. And she survived, and now obviously is the CEO of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And anytime that I feel beaten down or weak or vulnerable in telling my own story, or just in this topic in general, or these topics that I choose to cover, and some of the attacks and the abrasiveness that sometimes is just like kind of the name of the game. I remember that story, and I remember so many moments like that story that, you know, what it really takes to go from being victim to survivor. And once that switch happens, you can let go of so much. It's easier to let go of pain and the trauma, because this is this is something that people have PTSD over. You know, you close your eyes and you can remember the moment for the rest of your life about what domestic violence looked like and felt like. Um, so yeah, those are the things that get me through and keep me inspired, and you know, allow me to put on my own warrior boots. And that's one of the lines in the film: women have to be stronger than pretty. You look
Yeah.
like a warrior to me.
You know, women are such an extraordinary force. You know, if I think of my mom, I don't know, you know, how your situation was. My mom is maybe not even 5 foot, and she's tiny little person. She's very gentle and, you know, soft spoken, and you know, she was able to raise 5 kids on her own, going through extraordinary abuse, and you know, and just, you know, really created some incredible human beings by her strengths. And it's not, and at the time she was just going through all this pain, but it was very important to her that her kids will be healthy, and you know, and as you know, all the conditioning and the you know, the staying in that environment and all of that stuff, it's kind of part of it. But through it all, she was fighting for, and I just remember, like, you know, even all of those things were, like, you know, quote unquote negative, but it's, you know, a lot of the memories that I have is how much she wanted for us to have the best, and she wanted to protect us from all of it, and she wanted us to be healthy, you know, mentally, emotionally. And so the force of women, which there are mothers, our sisters, our spouses, our, you know, like everything
Mhm.
about our world as men, is just absolutely awe-inspiring. And you know, it takes people like you who are sharing, you know, journeys like you went through, and us, you know, people talking about it, and you know, really creating conversations and awareness of how extraordinary those people are.
Yeah. Yeah, as you talk about your mom, I just, you know, I can see the image of my mom, and my mom as a young boy, you know, and I felt um, so supported and loved, and like
Yeah.
um, we were the busiest kids on the block, and we were, you know, like I said earlier, she just didn't skip a beat, um, and tiny as ever. Yeah, she's like a tiny woman and beautiful woman. But I could see that, you know, as the years went on, each day, each moment was a constant fight, a constant, you know, it was survival. It was, how am I going to make it to the end of this day? And you really focus on the day, you know, and the moment. And I think, you know, I think that's a beautiful way to live. I mean, we all strive, instead of living in the past and the future,
But the
but
future, yeah.
when it's, I think when it's because of those reasons, because you're not, you know, because you're supporting yourself and your kids, that becomes, you know, that's their sole motivation. Like, they're giving their kids the best life
Yeah.
they can, and undoing trauma. You know, that's, I think, a lot of the reasons. The most dangerous time for people to leave a domestic violence situation, um, is at the, you know, is at the peak of it, is while the violence is going on. So people are, why don't you just leave? Because that's when it becomes the most deadly, um, when someone tries to make that escape. So my mom left at midnight, you know, in the middle of the night, and it was a really well designed plan of action, um, to not be listed in the phone book and to leave no trace of where we went. And you know, that's that's like a remarkable thing for any human being
Yeah.
to have to go through and survive through, and then make a life out of that, and like, you know, to it's an incredible amount of circumstances to
Yeah.
then rise out of.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I want to talk about something that might be a little painful. You know, one of the things that we see with people who are going through a lot of traumas, I know I went through it with my mom, is the subject of either forgiveness or letting go, because some of those you know, traumas and the what happens afterwards, right, is, you know, a lot of people who went through abuse, any types of abuse, kind of keep themselves, you know, as part of that journey for the future, because there's a lot of blame and a lot of guilt and a lot of, you know, memories, and we just get shackled by it sometimes. And so I know some people use forgiveness, some people let go, some people just cut it out of their life. Can you talk a little bit about that process? I don't know if you address it in the film a little bit, but you know, what has been that journey for you guys?
God, yeah, that is a tough question because my mom passed away from pancreatic cancer in May. I'm sorry, in September. She was diagnosed May 11th and she passed September 3rd. So I'm grateful. I'm getting to your question. I'm grateful that this film helped us in so many ways, but the guilt was one of the best ways and the most significant for her personally, because even though she did all these remarkable things, and we're sitting here honoring our mothers today and still talking about that level of strength, she held on to guilt all those years because she didn't do it soon enough, or she didn't do it, you know, that she got herself into that situation. Still inflicting pain where it didn't need to be anymore, placing blame on herself. And that's just, you know, residual part of what any person that's been abused goes through. It's a part of the psyche, and an abuser knows how to manipulate that, and knows that it's a weak point, and will really use that, unfortunately, as a way to continue abusing because they could see the weak points. So yeah, guilt is like, you know, especially I think for mothers, you know, mothers that come from these situations, they have like a tremendous amount of guilt. And I just want to say, like, here and now, if a mother is watching this, let go of the guilt, do anything you can to enjoy your life and to move forward, because you've already done that energetically and in your actions, if you're out of your situation. And I think what happens is, like, we know that in our psyche, and a lot of people understand it, but it takes our body and our nervous system longer to catch up. So people get caught in that trauma, and sometimes it doesn't go away for a lifetime. And that's another huge thing for this film, to inspire that you deserve happiness, and you deserve all the good things in life. You don't have to keep reliving these situations, because you are safe and you got out of it and you got help. Anybody that is looking for help, like I said earlier, we're proud partners of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. A 24/7 hotline is on donnathemovie.com, and available, you know, just by a quick Google search. There is help out there. There's tons of programs nowadays. Thankfully, that has changed, and we've come a long way. There's art therapy for kids to release trauma. There's so many beautiful, beautiful programs and things happening for families, and even safe places, safe spaces that that they can go and find shelter and food, which weren't available. They weren't a resource for my mom when I was growing up, and it wasn't that long ago. So I'm proud and I'm happy to say that that work is being done, and that I'm a part of that, and that this film is a part of that. So donnathemovie.com, and there is a Get Help tab right up there for anybody that is in this situation now, or needs extra support in whatever way.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing, and I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I lost a family member this year too. It's never easy, but I know that the legacy that she will have, and the the extraordinary impact that she made on you, and with the movie, now for the world, her spirit will definitely live forever and be very, very proud.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And she asked me every day the last 3 weeks of her life what was happening with the movie. She was really, excited about it, and excited to, her plan was, as she retired, she was just coming up to retirement in November, and she was a public school teacher, and she wanted to continue as an advocate and volunteer her time. In addition to going everywhere the film went, and just shaking people's hands and giving them hope, and she'll continue that, like you said, through her film. It's not the way that we ever thought it was, and her life was definitely cut short, but she's still here, and I feel her, and happy that we have this film to celebrate her voice.
Yeah, it's just absolutely extraordinary. Jared, what is the legacy that you want to create for yourself?
I like my mom, just a strong, being strong in a good balance of strength and being gentle. And I never really knew what that meant until my mom passed, and just that balance in life is so important, and finding, having more patience and all those things. So I guess just the legacy is just someone that fought for change and created awareness, and I think in a lot of ways I was my mother's voice in times that she didn't have one or felt too scared to have one. And I've always been that, kind of want to push the envelope since I was a kid. So I very much feel like that's why I'm here, a huge reason why I'm here on this earth, to honor my mom that way, her voice, and to be the vehicle for change.
Thank you. So
Thank
tell
you.
us why this movie is important and what's next.
This movie is important for anyone that's ever felt less than or made to feel less than. It's important if anyone's ever felt any level of fear in their life, if anyone's ever felt isolated and had to make their own way, anyone identifies with or likes watching a woman become her own hero. There's so many reasons why this film's important, and I think it's a great film that I think continues to have a ripple effect after you watch it, and a lifelong impact in your choices. And it can be found February 23rd. It's going to be on every major streaming platform: iTunes, Amazon, Apple TV, Fandango, and a dozen other streaming platforms. We're distributed through Gravitas Ventures. Everyone can find all the links on donnathemovie.com, strongerthanpretty.com, and yeah, we're, like I said earlier, beyond the movie, we're we're really interested in doing and continuing the work for domestic violence and the children, men and women that are in those situations, from those environments. So just doing the work on all different levels.
Yeah. Well, it's been just an absolute honor speaking with you. I mean, it's so personal for me. It's just like I can see, and I'm living through the experiences with you as you sharing those things. It kind of like transcended me to a different place with all of the things that we went through with my mom. So I'm gonna give you an open mic, 60-second or so, just to share and promote whatever it is that you want to promote. Whether it's the film, the business, a cause, and maybe a message that you want to give to our audience.
Thanks so much. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And I own Love Wins Productions distribution and 3 film festivals. So we're doing the work to create awareness for all different subjects deserving attention, and really giving filmmakers something different, a more transparent deal with distribution. And the film festivals focus on minority writers and filmmakers. And we have a beautiful space in New York and Los Angeles. When we reopen and the world looks different, for now we're doing virtual. So that's lovewinsproductions.net. And all those links for everything I just mentioned are there. Of course, Donna, themovie.com, strongerthanpretty.com. You can find all the links of what's happening there as well. And the upcoming projects I have are Worlds Apart, which is a series that focuses on the Black, transgender, and gender fluid communities, starring Glozell and Riante Devon Brown. I'm really proud of that project. It's a dramedy. And then one that's, again, personal. I never thought I'd have 2 films for my mom, but Holding On to Hope. It's a pancreatic cancer feature documentary. So we're raising awareness for pancreatic cancer and research, and working closely with the team at Cedars-Sinai, the pancreatic specialist, Dr. Osipov there. And yeah, those are the 2 first and foremost projects, and a narrative feature called Mrs. Santa, which is a comedy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm sitting here and we're talking, and I'm just thinking to myself how fortunate we are that we, in a way, went through those journeys and took that and used it as a way to inspire and give light to other people. And this is where that shift of, victim to survivor, and how fortunate we are to be in an environment where we can, make a living through bringing light to other people. I mean, can you imagine, like, where, like we could have been in a completely different environment and different reality. And that's, I think, could be celebrated and embraced. And any people out there that may think that they are forced to be in a certain situation, or that they have no other choice, today, just, and I think you can see from this story alone that you can take that, whatever situation that you have, and look what's on the other side of it to uplift yourself from any of those situations. And that's really what the show is about. So it's like, it's wonderful the way that you shared it.
Yeah, and thank you for creating the platform, and for everybody that's joining us, and joining in the mission, because there's, of course, power in numbers, and if we've inspired one person today, then we've done our job.
Yeah. There's a sentence or phrase in Hebrew that says, if you saved one soul, it's like you saved an entire world. So
yeah, keeps me going.
Yes, absolutely. Jaret, thank you so much for joining us. It's
Thank you.
been a real pleasure. and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to, participate in the work and support what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to continue to inspire with you. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.